What's up? What's up, guys? How's it going?
What's going on? Hey, Phil, I got to start off by saying, like, you probably the first dude, like, when I was growing up in McKinley, right? My dad went to McKinley. My uncles, they run a barber shop. And I remember going to the barber shop and talking to my Uncle Oliver and Michael. And all they talked about
Uh,
was, they like, look, Phil Hubbard is the baddest to ever come out of Canton. He one of the coldest to ever do it, man. Y'all young boys don't understand. Like, it's crazy. I'll say this. A lot of people don't realize that Camp McKinley is a basketball power, by the way. We got the most... Still. Division I wins of all time. Most wins of all time. They try to wipe that away because we good in football. But y'all got to give us our flowers, and this is one of the dudes who was really pivotal in starting that off.
yeah, I was one of the dudes, but I give my flowers to Nick Weatherspoon because that's who I followed, and that's who I was motivating me to be a basketball player when I was coming up in Canton. He motivated me a lot, to play for McKinley. So that's it's been a lot of good players that's come through Canton. I mean, you can name a few. We got Eric Snow, Gary Grant,
Yep.
C.J. McCullum. We have just numbers of players that's come through. This just to name a few guys. So there's a lot of great basketball players behind me and in front of me.
Phil, how does a kid from Ohio end up at Michigan instead of Ohio State?
Well, that was kind of hard. I always say this. My goal was to go to Ohio State. I mean, I think that was my goal. Growing up, I thought I was going to play for Ohio State, but just didn't work out that way when I went on the visit. Just a lot of things I didn't feel comfortable with. So I ended up going to Michigan. That was a hard decision. It was really hard to leave the state of Ohio.
Man, that had to be tough as a kid growing up, and especially like nowadays, every team is on TV, so maybe it's not that big a deal when kids go all over the country. But in those days, obviously, it was a different situation. So then you play 4 years at Michigan, you get drafted by the Pistons, and after a couple of years, you end up on the Cavs. What was that like? I mean, being from the area and then ended up playing for the Cavaliers.
At first, you're very excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunity to come home and play, but the Pistons were just starting to make that move forward. Isaiah had came on board, so we were starting to get to be pretty decent. And now I come home to the Cavs, and we're just the cellar dwellers. I mean, we're at the bottom. And, I mean, it's just terrible. It's tough, man. Nobody would come to the games. We couldn't win games, so it didn't work out the way. I always thought that I would come back and play for the Cavs at the end of my career, not the beginning of my career. So I was hoping to do that one day, but just coming back is still always big. You always wanted to play hard and show out, but it was very difficult because we wasn't a very good team.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you lose as many games in one season as I lost in my whole career of basketball.
That's crazy. Phil, what is the difference? We talked to a lot of guys that, Brad Sellers is on the cast, and we've talked to a lot of guys, Charles Oakley, some of those individuals who come from that era where it was 80s basketball. You had the Pistons really starting to make their move with Isaiah Thomas. Obviously, you had the Lakers, and obviously you had the Celtics. What was that era? How did that era differ from the era today? And do you believe it was tougher to play back then than it is now?
I think it was tougher because they kind of like put you in a box. You are a rebounder or you're a defender. They didn't give you the slices that the pie they give you now. But it was always tougher because you had to have a skill. You had to do a little bit more than just be a shooter. Sometimes you had to be like, I got to be able to guard, I got to be able to defend. So it became very tough. But the game has changed for the better, though. Back then it was very physical, didn't shoot a lot of threes. But now we see that, it's just a wide open game. They like scoring. People like to see scoring. The league likes scoring. So it's a lot more going towards scoring. So it's wide open. I think the game was good for when I played the way it was played. But I think the game is even better now the way the guys play now. And I don't, because, you have to get better each year. You have to change the product. The product can't stay the same, and I think the product has changed with the players, and even so, the players now, the conditioning and all the stuff they do to make themselves even better athletes and to last a long time in the league.
Phil, I just want to, if you could, we're having a little static when you're talking, unfortunately. If you could just move your phone a tiny bit, maybe that would help it.
All right. Let me see. Let me get the static out. Let me see if I put my ear plug in. That might help. See.
Troubleshooting on the fly at its finest. A staple of UCSS here.
It's interesting when we get Phil back. I'll ask him that most players don't like the new generation. They prefer their generation.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he thinks it's better as the game has progressed.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
No, unfortunately,
It's actually even worse somehow.
it's worse. Trying to reconnect, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, Phil, drop out and click that link again. Sometimes it's just an internet issue that's unfortunately out of our control. So we'll bring you back in 1 sec. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, Jason. Sometimes I look at it, and I told Jason, I said, man, when we going to give Steph Curry his flowers? Because I just think he's the poster child of this era. Like, a lot of people.
He changed the game more than anybody.
Yes. He's like Drake. So he's Drake. And I grew up listening to Jay-Z and Nas and Snoop and Dre and Wu-Tang, Tribe Called Quest. I grew up listening to those. So when Drake came around, I'm like, come on, man, you got this dude singing. He emotional. He making songs for ladies. And he looking all like he rap and sing. But after a certain point in time, you got to be like, well, this dude got more hits than everybody. The dude just keeps coming out. He's been out for years, and he keep bringing it. And I think the same way with Steph Curry. Like, at what point do the older generations embrace him and say, look, he revolutionized the way you play basketball?
He did, but you can stop with this nonsense about putting him on the Mount Rushmore of basketball
top
and take
10.
LeBron off.
Hold
That
on.
is-
LeBron
Who's saying that?
LeBron
A
don't
said
gotta
that.
go nowhere. LeBron's not going nowhere.
Stephen A. said if the Warriors
Stop.
win a ring, that they'll put. It might be time to take LeBron off Mount Rushmore
on,
and put
Steve.
Steve Steph on.
Come on.
Listen,
That's a joke.
Steph is
Come
a
on.
wonderful player who has done wonderful things for this game. He is not carrying a
joking
franchise the way that LeBron can carry a franchise.
I'm just trying to get him.
That's ridiculous.
You making my job harder, Stephen A. I'm trying to convince these dudes to put him in the top 10.
Let's put Stephen A. on that Cavs team in 2018 and see if they make the finals.
What does
There
Steph
ain't
Curry
no
do
way.
better than LeBron except the three-point shot?
Shoot. That's what he does. He shoots.
Well,
But
from anywhere, from the
LeBron does
parking
everything
lot.
else. Okay, fine. LeBron does everything else better. Every other aspect of the game.
Totally agree.
LeBron's better.
I totally agree.
It's crazy. We got Phil back with us.
We can't test his audio until we take him live. So, Phil,
There we
to us
go.
real quick.
Can you hear
Test
me?
sound. Yes, sir.
Yes,
it's back.
better.
There
Hey,
we go.
Okay.
All right, Phil.
Good.
We were just having a conversation. It was interesting to me. Most players of your generation and past generations don't like as the game progresses. They like their generation better and think they did it better and they were tougher and stronger and all that. But you seem to like where the game is headed. That's just curious to me because most guys of your generation don't like where things have gone.
Well, it's not that, because I coached too and I played and coached in the league. So you have to look at it like this. It was better for me when I played. That was great. Everything was good then. For the style of basketball we played, we had to live that, play that way because the game was physical. It was tough. You had to defend. You had to, be tough. You had to be a lot tougher than you are today but again, if that product was here today, I don't think everybody would like to see that product. I think people want to see the product advance, and that's what the game has done. It advanced to a better stage. If it's 3-point shooting, they don't play. I think I can score 20, because they don't guard. So hey, that's the way the game goes. The flow of the game is different now. It's a lot different.
Phil,
It's a lot different.
we was just sitting here while we were trying to reconnect you talking about Steph Curry, right? So,
Right.
to me, Steph Curry, more than anybody, has changed the game, in a way that we didn't foresee coming. I believe you played in the era where you didn't have the three-point line, and then they brought the three-point line in somewhere during your career. Can you talk about how the three-point shot has kind of changed the way coaches, because you coach as well, how coaches think about that shot particular? Now it's a bunch of threes and layups in terms of what they used to be when there was no three-point line.
I think you guys can leave. I played with Mark Price, one of the really top 3-point shooters. If Mark was playing now or playing back then, they used it more. Mark probably only shot about 6 or 7 threes. And we were thinking that was a lot, but Mark Price was a great shooter, and he definitely could shoot with any of these guys, I believe, today. But, again, we didn't use the three-point line as much when it came into effect. The coaches always wanted to slow and control the game. And if you took all those threes, they'd be like taking you out and setting you on the bench. So you try to get to the bucket, get the easy two, get the easy basket. And it was more about that than it was three-point line. But as the three-point line evolved, and today's game, it is just such a big thing of everybody wants to see. Now, it is Steph Curry. He is the one that started shooting them. But, you got to give Reggie Miller some credit, Ray Allen some credit, some guys. But he just took it to a super advanced level when Steph came.
By the way, Mark Price will be on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show 1 week from today, so we look forward to that. Phil, you were on the 1976 gold medal winning Olympic team. So there's actually a lot of interesting names of note there, guys who were coaches, guys who are executives in the league years later. What was that experience like? And I was looking at the scores from that year, and you guys only beat Puerto Rico by 1 point. I don't think of Puerto Rico as a big basketball country. So if you could tell us your thoughts on the Olympics in general and what happened in that game specifically. Is there a really great player there we didn't know about that we can't remember?
He's a player you didn't know about. But what happened was we were supposed to have this big matchup against the Russians, but on the way we was in the pool play, which they have, and we were playing Puerto Rico, and they had Butch Lee from Marquette.
Okay.
And he had a heck of a game, and the rest of the players, he kept the game close, and it was just he kept scoring. We couldn't control him, and he really just had a heck of a game, and that's really why the game was close, because he did a lot of scoring, a lot of ISOs, and a lot of pick and roll, and he was able to keep the game close. That's the one reason that the game was close, and we struggled a little bit, but still we came out on top. 1.5, but it was just 1 point, but that was the reason why. But the thing about the Olympics was we felt like we were going to have a game against the Russians, but it ended up being Yugoslavia, and we still got the medal. But it was just a heck of an experience because we all was college players. At that time, we were college players playing against men, grown professionals. So it just changed. That was a big thing. And we only practiced for like 2.5 months. And then we went out there to Montreal and won the medal. But my teammates, Adrian Dantley, Mitch Kupchak, Ernie Grunfeld, Quentin Buckner. And there also was a big thing about all the ACC players that got picked to be on the team. Because it was a big – because Coach Smith was the coach, and he picked almost all ACC players, So it was just crazy how that worked. But it all worked out. We won the medal, and we came back home. Everybody was happy.
Nice.
Phil, you're talking earlier about when you were traded here and how lean it was. You missed out on a championship window. You're part of the Bill Laimbeer trade. Bill goes to Detroit. They start winning titles. Yeah. You come here and you're playing.
I go to the cellar.
Yeah. How tough was that mentally for you?
I think I didn't see it that way till they got to winning, but because I saw it as an opportunity to come home and try to build something. But again, as you look back, you look at it that way. But I always was happy to be here to play for the Cavs. I think that that was a pride thing. You wanted to always see if we could do well, and I think I played for 5 years or so before we made the playoffs. It just was crazy. We made the playoffs with George Karl's first year, and it was with a losing record because that was the year they extended the playoffs to 8 teams, or whether 8 teams on each side. So we ended up making the playoffs with a losing record. Ended up playing the Boston Celtics in the first round, but it was just, it took a long time to get this thing turned around. Just where it was going uphill because Ted Stepien had put us in such a dungeon, a basketball dungeon. I mean, he put us in a basketball dungeon that we almost didn't get out.
Mikey, you got a question?
Yeah, Phil, you're a Cleveland guy, but played in an era before the
Not a
current
Cleveland
one.
guy, a Canton guy.
Well, Canton, but that's
go.
Cleveland. As someone
Not
from
enough.
from Canton. I'm not going to say
LeBron already told you.
Come on now.
LeBron
Wait,
is
is
from
Canton not
Akron.
considered
Me
Cleveland?
and Phil are from Canton.
I thought you'd been in Cleveland long enough to know that people from Canton don't want to hear they're from Cleveland, and people from Akron don't want to hear from Cleveland.
My bad.
They are
Hand
different
up.
cities.
Hand up. That is I learned something new today on May 4th. My bad, Phil. All right, being an Ohio guy, can we all agree Canton's
Right.
Ohio?
Yeah, look,
Yeah,
Say
right.
Northeast Ohio.
yeah, there
Being
you
from the
go.
United States of America, Phil. Can we all agree that Canton's being from planet Earth, Phil. Playing in a generation before the current one. Who's your GOAT, LeBron or Jordan?
You know, man, I'm an Ohio guy. I'm gonna give LeBron. You know, I think LeBron. They 1A and 1-2. I'm not gonna take either way from one of them. You know, because LeBron is such a game changer, man. I mean, he is the guy. I mean, how he does that. You know, at 38 years old, the way he performs right now is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Nobody expected him to have the numbers he had this year. You know, scoring wise, I would have never. You know, me and a couple of my friends were trying to figure out how he was going to break the scoring title, and we thought it would go down to, like, he had to average, like, 20, almost 24 points a game, you know, and not missing the games. But, you know, his body, man, his work of art is a heck of a thing, man. And then you go with Jordan, too. So they're on the same level, just different times, man. You know, you know, but Ohio guy, you know, I gotta stick with LeBron, man.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? 3-3-0 in the building, 2-3-4 stand up. And by the way, we're gonna print. Phil Hubbard says that LeBron James is the greatest player ever in the Milky Way galaxy. Run with that.
Yeah, I'll say I always gotta give A1 and A2 now. You know, it's right there. You know, I don't want to take anything away because, you know, I played against Michael Jordan, guarded him on switches, unfortunately. But never had to guard him for the whole game. You know? So I didn't have to worry about it. Peg Elo had to get that assignment. Harper
Get that work.
But you know, and then I coached in the era where LeBron came in.
Yeah.
And seeing him develop from the first year in Cleveland, how much better he's gotten over the years, how much he improved his jump shot, how much he developed his body. And it's just, you know, those are the players, man. They're you know, on the Mount Everest, they are there. You know, their faces are up there. So, you know, it's hard to try to separate, you know, you're going to take this guy, you're going to take this. But, you know, Michael's such a different body structure. You know, LeBron is built, strong, you know, you know, they both have a high level IQ of basketball. So, you know, you can't go wrong with either one of them. But, you know, we always try to slide the Ohio guy in, slide LeBron and slide him in.
Thanks, Phil. We appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
Oh, no problem, guys.
Bye.
All right.
All right, but